What's up, YouTube? Nick here with another episode of the Purple Dahlia Grow Journal. This week I got a par meter, added some beneficial bugs, and we added a cover crop, so plenty to talk about. Let's start with the new par meter. You'll have to excuse the blurple lights as obviously if I'm measuring the light, we need the lights on. So par stands for photosynthetically active radiation. So essentially we're measuring the amount of light that the plant can use for photosynthesis hitting the top of the leaves. So as you're looking at the little reader down at the bottom, you're seeing them getting between 175 and 250, 260 at the canopy. So I recently was listening to Mass Medical's podcast on light, and he recommends 500 for veg and 1,000 for flower, which I've corroborated online. So way too low here, but I just turned on the flowering portion of these 600 watt LEDs, and that's getting us a little bit closer. Again, before we were really capping out at 250, and now we're getting much closer to 400. The next step will be to actually lower these lights by bringing them down a bit. We'll actually be able to raise that par reading. Also this week, my beneficial bugs came in from Build-A-Soil. Those are the rove beetles, which I'm adding to each of the pots. Uh, they're tiny and inside the dirt, so I'm really just taking that dirt and sprinkling it on top. But these will be great for controlling everything from shore flies to fungus gnats, western flower thrips, and root aphids. So I haven't had any issues with any of those besides fungus gnats, but I like adding these, once a quarter, once a half to, just inoculate the garden and keep everything nice and healthy. I'll also be adding predatory mites, which will be to handle bean thrips, fungus gnats, springtails, and regular thrips. These, similar to the rove beetles, will come essentially as a bag of dirt, and you'll sprinkle those on. I'll be doing that here in a second. But really nice that you're able to order these beneficials from Build-A-Soil. They came super quick, and they package them up with some insulated packaging so that everything's still alive. I also got some nematodes, which actually come frozen. I'll melt those down, add those to water, and water those into all the pots. But I'll do that in a later episode. I'm waiting to get a little vegetable garden going, so I wanted to save some nematodes for that. So now that the purple dahlias are about at 4 weeks, I'm starting to get their final homes prepared for them to be transplanted in. They'll eventually be going into these 7 gallons. I filled those up with soil a couple days ago. I used an extra 2-gallon pot to actually maintain the hole in there for easy transplant. And now I'm taking some cover crop, particularly the mixed clover package from Build-A-Soil, and adding that to this soil. The goal of getting this in here and all set up early is just allowing that soil to begin to work and become a better environment for that transplant. All this soil is the same that the plants went into in their 2 gallons. Just some soil that I'm recycling from the last use. Now I'm taking some Rootwise Complete Myco and adding it to the pots. This will inoculate the cover crop with all that beneficial fungus that I added to the original seeds when I planted them. That'll inoculate this environment, get all that fungus going, so that it's already all connected and ready for the fresh purple dahlias to plug in. Next, I'm adding just some dirt to cover up the seeds. That way, they can start planting, and the cover crop can support the fungus. It can all start to cycle the nutrients. But this is the first time I've done this, so I'm excited. I hope, it makes the transplant a little bit smoother. I also hope it helps with the nutrient cycling. And because it's a 7-gallon, I hope that's plenty of room for flowering these purple dahlias. I'd been growing recently in 3 gallons and 5 gallons, and I'd been having a little bit of trouble growing from seed, getting the full cycle without them starting to show signs of nutrient deficiency. And then, of course, once I finished up covering the seeds, I begin to water. dropped the ball here in the beginning and just, watered with this, which wasn't very delicate. It would just kind of like plop right onto the soil and it would start to cave in and, fill in that little hole that I left there for the transplant. Luckily, I wised up and added a small attachment that allows it to sort of sprinkle and add a much more uniform watering without being quite so eroding on the soil, so it can kind of leave that spot there for the transplant. One of the big benefits of this cover crop is that clover is nitrogen fixing, meaning that it can pull the nitrogen out of the air, which is huge, especially since cannabis is such a nitrogen intensive plant. So I'll actually grow this for a little bit and then till it into not quite till, but mix it into the top layers of the soil, providing some nutrients for the purple dahlias. Now back to the seed pack. Dominion Seed Company gives the purple dahlia an 8 out of 10 for pest resistance and an 8 out of 10 for mold and mildew resistance. And that's all I've got this week, folks. So don't forget to subscribe. Don't forget to hit that like button. Check out the playlist if you've missed any of our earlier episodes. And this week in the bong, I've got some DJC and Lost Tribe from 14er.